walk. Ali set the pace, Mystic brings a spark. Steve in the cut, now the whole block start. Cold on the edge till we hit. I don't call that name and we break it down, 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 down. Game time grind. Game time grind. Ali, Mystic, Steve, all in line. Game time grind. Game time grind. Bring the raw back. We on tonight.
Good day, good evening, good morning, depending on where you're watching around the world. Welcome to a brand new episode of the Game Time Grind. I'm your host, Ali Persian. That's Steve. Mystic's in the back dealing with some stuff. Maybe he'll come up, maybe he won't. We'll definitely find out soon. But yeah, welcome to a whole brand new episode, an exclusive episode. And if you didn't know, every Thursday night, 8 p.m. on the 4th and 10U channel only. It's exclusively only on 4th and 10U. There's an exclusive episode. Just last week, we broke it down with Indiana. Are they a dynasty in the making? Really? We gave Mystic the floor. He decided to give us his thoughts on why Indiana is a dynasty. Definitely check it out. You're not going to want to miss it. Also, if you watched our show last Tuesday, definitely watch that as well. We have a lot of episodes, over 130 videos on our channel now. Steve, did you know that? We've been putting out a lot of content.
Hey, we put in that work.
That's right. Somebody been putting in work. Just kidding, Steve. But everyone hit the like button, subscribe if you're brand new, turn on the notification bell, right? Because this is going to be a really good episode and you're not going to want to miss it. But before we get started, shout out to my man, Magic Mike. Go check out Magic Mike's cards. It definitely gives you great deals on all your sports cards needs. Football, basketball, soccer, hockey, Pokemon cards. If you're interested, he can definitely hook you up. Definitely reach out to him. You can check him out on TikTok or whatnot. Has some really awesome breaks. It's a fun time. Definitely check it out.
Magic Mike's cards. Flip that back, let's go. Hands in the air, we're running this show. Sharp cut, shrink wrap, snap, name on the mat. We don't hold back.
Definitely check out Magic Mike cards if you're all your sports memorabilia needs when it comes to cards. I've gotten I brag about this all the time because I still can't believe I have it. I love it so much, right? My Jeremiah Smith signed autograph card. He hooked me up, called me and said, Ali, I got something for you. And he definitely hooked me up. I really appreciate him for that, but definitely check him out. Also, subscribe if you're new. And I'll tell you why. Speaking of Magic Mike's cards, I'll go ahead and leak it. The very first giveaways that we're going to do, the very first giveaways when we hit 100 subscribers, is going to be a package of Magic Mike, one of Magic Mike's packs that he put together himself of some really nice cards. So definitely stay tuned for that. Steve, my man, how's everything? How's everything been?
It's going, man. Been some crazy days for news for NFL football. A lot of injuries going on. Even crazier news. We finally got a conclusion on a certain running back. Maybe we'll talk about tonight a little bit. Maybe not. We'll find out. It's been interesting.
Yeah, well, definitely. It's definitely been very interesting. A lot of stuff going on in the news. Depending on when you watch this, there might have been an announcement or not, but it's like, is LeBron going to Cleveland? Is he going to Miami? Is it going to Minnesota? Where the hell is LeBron going to end up? That seems to be the biggest hot topic nowadays in the spaces or even in X. I don't know if you saw this, and I know by the time this airs, this is probably old news, right? Did you see that someone that worked for the Miami Heat's multimedia or everyone does their social media type stuff. Posted or published a YouTube show that was LeBron James' introduction to the team or whatever, like announcement, and erased it, after they realized that he published it in error. And they're trying to say, oh, this isn't saying he's coming there. We were just being prepared in advance. I wonder, does he end up becoming a Miami Heat? That will be very, very interesting. But had all the fan base in its world, though. So that was kind of interesting. What else is going on in the news? Anything else happened? I wish Mystic was here. He had some baseball local news for him. I thought that was kind of neat. I guess some local team had like a no-hitter or something. It was pretty cool. What else? What other news you got, Steve? Anything?
Nothing really.
Nothing really.
Ohio State was able to hold on to a quarterback.
Yeah, they did. Was it Brady Edmonds, the 4-star quarterback, has decided to shut down his recruiting, and it says he's a Buckeye for now. And we'll see. We'll see if he actually signs a dotted line when it comes down to it. A lot of people, I'm still getting people in my DMs or people messaging me or trying to say that Ohio State's in the mud and we're going to end up sucking. First of all, you might be worried about 2028 or 2027, I should say, or 2028, but I'm not, because we still got 2026 to play for. And last time I checked, Ohio State had the best wide receiver in all the land, right? Has the best wide receiver. They have the best wide receiver room in all the land. I'll argue that. We have some hella good running backs. We got Bo Jackson, Isaiah West. And I'm going to tell you right now, hot take, there's a guy that once signed with Tennessee, only that in that same offseason said, you know what? I don't want to go to Tennessee. I want to go to Ohio State. And he's something special. He goes by the name of Legend. Legend Bay is his name. And there's a crazy story on how he ended up becoming a Buckeye as well, or why even Tennessee was even involved. We can get into that later time. But go watch the tape. This kid looks quick, looks fast. I hear in people that are in the know, that are there, was there during spring ball, and what their expectations are. Legend Bay is going to be something special. So I'm not worried. Not worried at all. We still have hella good players coming in, 5-star recruits. We still have the number 1 overall recruit, DJ Jacobs, the edge, right? 5-star. We have a lot of players that we're bringing in at high talented positions that are of need. I don't think one running back is going to make or break what we do in recruiting. I mean, you guys are acting like not you, Steve, but like a lot of people that are messaging me and posting and tagging me and stuff. They are really worried about that one player, right? This isn't the first 5-star recruit to say no to Ohio State and go somewhere else. We have seen this many times over. Everyone's acting like it's breaking news, and it's really not. Go ahead, Steve. I know you want to say something. Go ahead.
Well, I was going to add, I found out something interesting today that I didn't know. Do you know who the 2 teams are that are the youngest in college sports from an overall age?
I think one of them is Ohio State, I read recently.
They are number 2. USC is number 1.
Yep.
They are the 2 youngest rosters in college sports.
And actually, that reminds me, let me bring something up. I want to share real quick. Let me bring this up, and I will share it with you guys. There's something that
I can't wait for 12 months. 12 months from now, when you and me are talking about Ohio State and USF's dynasties. I just can't wait.
USF's dynasty. That's hilarious. We will definitely see. I think USF is going to be good. Dynasty is the question. That's like that term that certain people in the Miami Dolphins fan base don't like generational, when you throw generational around. Let's take a look at this real quick. And actually, hold on, let me stop sharing for 1 second. One second here. That is not what I wanted. It's this one. Here we go. There we go. I shared it appropriately. Okay. So the reason I brought this up, this is really interesting. So it's the Big Ten's top wide receiver duos going into 2026. And this is from a Trojan fan, actually. If you look, VI Trojan FBX. So I guess it's a fan account of some kind. It's USC. They are putting Jeremiah Smith, and they say Brandon Inniss at number 1, followed by Terrell Anderson and Tanuk Hines at South Carolina. Or it's not South Carolina. What am I saying? USC. I'm so sorry. Then you have DeCorian Moore and Iverson Hooks at Oregon, Nick Marsh and Charlie Becker at Indiana, who we just got done talking about last Thursday. Then we have Chase Sewell and Brett Eskildinson. I don't know how to say that, Steve. I don't know if you can help me on that. And then you have Andrew Marsh. Oh, what did you say?
No, I said that you got about how I read it. Eskildinson.
Okay. I couldn't say it properly. I'm sorry. I apologize to the player. I hope, he doesn't take it to heart. My last name's really hard and no one can pronounce it either. But then at Michigan, you have Andrew Marsh and JJ Buchanan, Neziah Hunter and Ja'Cory Barnes at Nebraska, KJ Duff and Ben Black at Rutgers, followed by Jayshawn Platt and Colin Dixon at Illinois. And then last but not least, Leland Smith and Landon Ellis at UCLA, right? To bottom off the top 10. Now, my question is this, right? I kind of feel like the top 4 teams are correct. I don't know if they're in the right order, though, right? Number 1, Jeremiah Smith arguably is the number 1 receiver at the top. I agree with that. But I don't agree with who they have him as the duo with, right? Not Isaiah, what am I saying? Brandon Inniss is really good, but he's not like how do I say this? I'll say this in NFL terms. We have a lot of NFL fans that watch this show, so we're going to say it in NFL terms. You have Jamar Chase at Cincinnati, right? Who's wide receiver 2, Steve, at Cincinnati?
T. Higgins,
right? T. Higgins can catch a damn ball, right? T. Higgins is that deep threat at any point you can give it to. T. Higgins can take it and run it. I'm not saying Brandon Inniss can't do that. I just don't think he's been put in a place where he can really do that and showcase his talent. And that's nothing against him. But there's another wide receiver that's in that room that I think is going to make a hell of an argument that he's really the top 2nd person next to Jeremiah Smith. And this guy's already electrifying. You can already tell how they're going to use him, and he's going to be used all over the field. And that's Chris Henry Jr. You know what I'm saying? I think he is really the number 2 that should be there. But I understand why they have Brandon Inniss. Brandon Inniss is the veteran. He's the senior. This is his last year. Obviously, they're going to try to showcase him. I get it. They tried to even last year. But I think what he does that's elite is the stuff that he does off the ball, right? He creates mismatches. He actually blocks very, very well in the running game. I've seen him lay people out and throw blocks that allowed running backs to fly past the defenders, right? He does a lot of stuff that off the ball that you wouldn't expect from a 5-star recruit. If you didn't know, Brandon is, I want to say he's from Central Florida. And he's a 5-star recruit, right? He was coming out of high school. He's really good. He can catch the ball. He has the speed and everything. I just don't know if they use him in the fashion that I think they would for him to be that number one duo, if you know what I mean, Steve. What do you think of that so
Well,
far?
I mean, he's basically the Andrade Isoveus. I forget how to say his damn last name. He's like the number three for Cincinnati. I mean, Ennis is also your kick returner too. So like he
That's
just
true.
has a different role than a wide receiver too. But I get again, like you said, right? He's the veteran. He's who they believe will probably get a decent amount of snaps. And with your new young wide receiver, he's a freshman, right? Like
Yeah, look, and this is no disrespect to Brandon Inniss because I think he's a hella receiver, and I know he has the talent. I just don't know if Ohio State's going to use him that way, right? Are they going to just keep making him do the stuff that he does so great, and it's really effective, or are they going to move him into more of a showcased role where kind of like I don't know if you noticed, but
he works
oh
as a
man,
slot receiver. Like
yeah, I mean,
as like your vertical slot receiver. I think that's the best role as long as he catches the ball. Because if I remember correctly, he had a horrible drop against Indiana. If I remember correctly, I'd have to go back and rewatch the game. But if I remember correctly, he
I
had a
think you're
really bad
right.
drop.
Yeah, but see, that's the thing. That was like the like last year was the first time that I saw him more really in the passing game, whereas the other two receivers were eating everything up. You know what I mean? That's why I'm like, I don't know if they're going to have him in that. Are they going to just let him do what he does best, or because this is his last year that he's going to put everything on the table? I think he needs to for his NFL career. He definitely needs to, right? Um, I just don't know. I don't know if I'd have him as the number two for the duo. Terrell Anderson and Tanuk Hines, we talked about them when we broke down USC. I think both are really good receivers. I also like DeCorian Moore and Iverson Hooks. That Oregon team is a good team. And we just got done talking about Nick Marsh and Charlie Becker. Those receivers can really be somebody. And in fact, Indiana, speaking of which, for 2027, they just signed Sales, another
Four-star.
wide receiver, 5-star receiver. Yeah, they did. So I agree with the top four teams. I don't know if this is the order. Maybe Oregon over USC, possibly. But my biggest question mark is Brandon Inniss. I'm an Ohio State fan questioning my own team. I get it. It's unheard of. I just like to be a realist. Is Brandon Inniss really that electrifying receiver that you would have next to Jeremiah Smith to say that's your duo? I don't know. I don't know. That's the question I have. Any other thoughts on this top 10 list? I found it interesting.
No, I mean, look at Michigan there at 6. They have no, like we said during their show, they have no excuses.
That's true. They don't have any excuses. I mean, they brought in all the talent they need to. They brought in a hell of an offensive line. They have the 5-star QB, but the question is, can the 5-star QB stay out of trouble and actually be the guy that he claims to be? Saying that he is the best Michigan recruit ever or Michigan player ever to play. I need to see that. I need to see that on the field. I have yet to see it.
I'm not gonna lie, I'm kind of more interested in the 4-star kid that's the son of the grandson of their former coach. Yeah. Like I want to see what that kid's got. Like
Carr.
there's something about
Yeah.
yeah, there's something about kids who grow up in coaching families, like Ty Simpson, for instance. They just understand the sport in a different way.
Yeah, definitely. Did you see what On3 posted on X?
Which one?
Well, it's weird because I don't know if they're clipping this from his interview that I just saw on ESPN, but on ESPN, they asked him they asked Nick Saban about because the SEC hasn't won a championship in 3 years, are they the inferior conference versus the Big Ten. And here, let me share this. This is what On3 posted about 8 hours ago. Let me share this real quick. So On3 shared Nick Saban on claims that the Big Ten is the premier conference over the SEC. I think the only reason some people are talking about this is we dominated for so long and we were so good. Everybody makes it a big deal out of being able to beat us. That doesn't mean they're better than us. And that doesn't mean that just because you win championships that you have a better conference. It just means that you have a better team. Okay. All right. Since we were talking about dynasties recently, let's talk about that real quick, Steve. I kind of want to know what your thoughts are. So he says that just because you won championships for 3 years straight, just because they won for so long that everyone is so shocked and trying to say that you're better, that doesn't mean you're better than us. Okay. All right, fine. Fair enough. The SEC has several top programs, right? I'll argue that the Big Ten also does now too. You have Ohio State, you have Michigan. It's not just two teams anymore. You have Oregon, you have USC, you have. I will argue that Penn State, regardless of what they what's happened to them in the last year, they've been one of those top recruiting programs. They recruit 5-star and 4-star athletes all the time, just like the SEC does. So I don't necessarily agree with this. The other reason I don't agree with this is what does? If you win championships, you have top elite recruiting classes, which the Big Ten has been in the top 5 for the past couple of years. No questions asked. In fact, USC, I want to say in back-to-back years, they had like number 1 or top 3 recruiting classes, right? So it's not like that came out of nowhere. And then on top of it, the Big Ten, we already saw this past year, the Big Ten had one of the highest grossing, profits made over the entire season. It's like, wasn't it some stupid, ridiculous, like well over $1 billion, like almost $2 billion that they made or more? Steve, wasn't it something stupid? Right? And I know the SEC came in second. I know the SEC came in second, but at what point, how many more, what else is there to prove? You also look at, okay, granted, Big Ten won 3 straight championships. I'll give it to you. But you look at who they had to beat to get there. They had to beat the Alabamas of the world, right? They had to beat other teams that were top programs. Indiana beat Alabama. They beat Miami, to give you an example, right? You look at what happened last year. I want to say you look at games like Texas versus Michigan. You look at the bowl games outside of the playoff. Look at the bowl games that I want to say it was like the year before last year. The SEC got crushed. The SEC got crushed by Big Ten talent, right? I could understand that you really feel that the SEC is the best because you were there, from the early days and you brought it to levels unforeseen. I get it. I get all of that. But at some point, you're going to start thinking that the other side might have clearer skies. That's all I'm going to say. And the reason I say that is because you look at what's happening. The Big Ten has started recruiting at higher levels that they haven't seen in a long time, right? It started with Ohio State, and you got Michigan, and you had Penn State involved, and now you brought in Oregon and USC, right? Both those teams, high recruiting classes. Then you look at the amount of profits and the TV deal that they have with Fox and everything, right? Everything that the SEC had, the Big Ten now has, right? They have the championships to go with it. They have the bowl wins to go with it. All I'm saying is that the SEC, yes, they're one of the best top 2, conferences in the league. I won't argue that. I won't. But I don't think the SEC is the best anymore. You know what I mean? They have, just like the Big Ten, like he was arguing about 1 or 2 teams, or there's actually more than that. There's like 4 or 5 teams that are really good in the Big Ten, to be honest. I'll argue that that's how it is with the SEC. And those top teams, I can name them for you: Texas, Georgia, Alabama, right? Those three teams. Who else do we got? I will say Texas A&M for me is one of those middle of the road teams where sometimes they're high, sometimes they're low. Who else is a really top talent in the SEC? Maybe LSU, maybe. Who else do we got, Steve? Who am I missing? Don't tell me it's Florida. They're on a complete rebuild.
I mean, I've brought it up a few times, and I might be biased, but I think Auburn, Oklahoma, I think those are top teams.
Yeah, but Oklahoma, to
Oklahoma's
be
been
fair,
really good.
they were good last year, yes, right? I don't know if they're I could consider them one of the top elite teams now. I would say early 2000s for sure, 100%. Even prior to that, 90s, 80s, Oklahoma was top level. Don't get me wrong. I just don't know if I really consider
I
them
mean,
part of the Georgia
to be
crew.
fair,
Go ahead.
to this whole conversation, I think it's gone further than it needed to be. And
Damn,
I don't
down.
and I don't have a dog in this fight, right? Because I'm an American, a conference, right? Like I don't have a loyalty to the SEC or the Big Ten,
Oh, you
right?
meant the conference. Okay. All right. I get what you're saying. Go
Yeah,
ahead.
yeah. I'm in the American conference, right? Like
Yeah.
I don't have a dog in the fight. I don't agree with the man because I think he's obnoxious as hell. But Stephen A did say something, I think it was today or yesterday. It would be one thing if it was just one team. And like Saban said, right? Oh, it's just one team that's better. Well, it's not just one team. It's three different teams over the course of 4 years. That kills the argument. It just does. Like you can't say, oh well, it just means you have one team. No, it doesn't. It does not mean one team was better. It means over the last 3 years, three different big or 4 years, three Big Ten teams have won the national championship. That means three teams have been better. That means from an overall standpoint, that is a large enough sample size to say Big Ten is better than the SEC right now. The Big Ten could argue they have the best conference in all of college sports. Period.
And that's the argument right now. That doesn't mean that it's the all-time argument that they're the best conference all time. I'm not saying that. I just think that I think his heart will always be SEC, and he's going to lawyer for SEC no matter what. I think that's what it just comes down to. And Mystic, thank you for joining the show. And I didn't play your music. I should have. But we're talking about the comments that were made by Nick Saban on SEC Network. And also, I want to say it was also on ESPN about, is Big Ten really better than the SEC? Nick Saban made some comments about saying that just because you won some championships doesn't mean that you're, one of the top conferences. And though three different
doesn't mean you're the better conferences.
Or the better
He
conference.
said it doesn't mean you're the better conference. It just means you had one better team. No, it doesn't. Yeah. That's not what that means.
Yeah. Especially since you had three different teams win it. Not to mention all the other bowl teams bowl games that were made that Big Ten teams beat SEC teams in the bowl games. And I get it. People are trying to argue that the bowl games don't mean anything anymore, but they should. They should mean something. That's a representation of you, not just your team, but your conference. And I hate seeing teams either not playing their bowl games or just slacking off and only playing half of a game, right? That I hate seeing that. I really do. What do you got, Mystic? I apologize for.
No, you're good. No, you're good. We're all here speaking our minds and having a good time. That's how this works. So, I've always thought that there was a closer gap than what a lot of people wanted to, believe when it came to the SEC and the Big Ten. And it was always believed that the SEC was so superior and no one could come close to them and their numbers are all this. And Now the Big Ten's starting to get those numbers. Like I've always been here. I think that's just how it's going, right? I think we've seen transition of conferences through the years. I remember a time when they were, because for instance, the ACC. I remember when the ACC used to had more than a couple teams that you were like, okay, that's a good team. They can win that conference this year. Right now, you're like, well, it's pretty much Miami and whoever wants to try to beat them. Those kind of things. The Big Ten, there's multiple teams out there. I think we talk about at least four teams, maybe five teams that can win the Big Ten this year.
Yeah.
Just a lot of good teams in that conference. SEC is getting back up there. I think there's four, easily four, probably 3, 4 off the top of my head that I could think of in the SEC that could probably win it this year. Yeah, we talk about Texas, right? But I mean, Georgia's still over there. Ole Miss is over there. Things of that such. So sometimes that's just how it goes. But to kind of try to take away from that conference winning championships, and you're trying to say that there's not a gap being closed or they're not the better conference right now, that's just kind of just showing your bias and not your unbiased opinion, if I'm being honest.
Absolutely. I agree.
That being said, I still stand on what I said to you earlier, Ollie. I do think, and I think it would bring a very interesting dynamic to college sports if the SEC did, as they said, that Stephen A. kind of brought up, that they could break off and make their own college playoffs for just the SEC. I think we could end up with an NFC versus AFC-esque type rivalry that could end up in like a Champions Bowl or something like that. That could give us more college sports. I think that would be really cool.
Yeah, maybe. You might be right. Well, we'll see. Something I wanted to mention. He mentioned that he mentioned SEC had 4, maybe 5 teams in the college football playoff just about a year ago or so, right? Well, that was 2024. They had Georgia, Texas, Tennessee, and actually no, Clemson is an ACC, right? They're an ACC team, aren't they?
Ooh, that's true, yep.
So that's only 3. Let me look.
Well, this year they had Georgia, Alabama, Texas. No, it was just Georgia and Alabama, right? Am I missing one?
Yeah, it was just Georgia and Alabama. They almost didn't have a representative if a certain thing happened, but it didn't end up happening that way. Yeah, because like 2024, you had Clemson, SMU, Indiana, Tennessee, Ohio State, Notre Dame, Penn State, Texas, Arizona State, Boise State, Georgia. No, not Boise. Boise was there. Georgia and Oregon. So in that 2024 college football playoff, right, where Ohio State won the national championship, they beat 2 SEC teams to get to the final. They beat Tennessee. They beat Texas, right? And they didn't just beat Tennessee. They kind of, if you go back and watch that game, they got manhandled, right? In a crowd, and I'll argue there was more Tennessee fans than there were Buckeye fans there. They invaded that Horseshoe Stadium, to be honest, right? So it wasn't like it was such a like home field advantage or whatever. But even Texas game, you go back to that, we beat Texas in their backyard. That was in Texas, right? So it wasn't like they had to travel or anything. I just don't like this whole argument about, oh, look at how many teams you have in the college football playoff. So what? We had 4 in 2024 and we had 3 in 2025. So what? Same thing that you got going on. My point is that this is just some talk like rivalry that's been going on for a hot minute. I don't equate the better conference based on how many, like I use it as a measure of like, are they being relevant right now? Yes. Like how many championships you won. but you got to look at the totality of everything. You got to look how many bowl games. Like, there's been a lot of upsets where Big Ten teams are beating SEC teams in bowl games over the years, right? In fact, didn't Iowa win their bowl game last year, or was it the year before? Mystic.
They won maybe this last year.
They did win this last year. You said.
Yep.
Who did they play?
They handled Diego Pavia and Vanderbilt.
Vanderbilt. Oh, and where's Vanderbilt? What conference are they in?
SEC.
Thank you. That's my point.
Currently unemployed Diego Pavia, just for those, who seem to remember his little temper tantrum about losing the Heisman Trophy. Just saying.
Telling you, Iowa started him on his career downfall. He talked all that smack and said he was going to handle something, and he got handled, and he's been on the down ever since.
Yeah. And look, I mean, even I want to say it was like the year prior, the 2024 bowl games, there was even more upsets, not just with Iowa, but other teams that the SEC has lost. In fact, I want to say, if I remember correctly, and don't quote me on this because it was something ridiculous. I want to say it was like they were like 2-6 or something in that offseason. It was really bad for the SEC in 24. So it's just interesting. Just something I wanted to kind of put up there. I think the SEC is very hella talented. I just don't want to crown them the king. And so what? If the Big Ten is not the king, then there's no king, to be honest, when it comes to conferences, to be honest. I'll just say that both conferences are the top 2 damn conferences in all of college football. That's what I'll agree to. Fair enough?
I don't even know if they're top 2. I know one is top 2. I know one is top 2.
Okay, and who's the other then? What are you talking about?
I think the ACC is starting to make a run again. Miami made the college playoff or the national championship game for a reason, and I don't think that run is over. I'm just saying.
Look, Miami, yes, and the ACC, yes, with Miami. But if you kind of look at the trajectory of the other teams, it hasn't looked so good. Clemson looked the worst they've ever looked in the last 5-6 years, to be honest. All right. They had high hopes for that team. That team, they were really looking forward to seeing what was his name? Cade, who was the quarterback that they had at Clemson? Klubnik, I think. Cade Klubnik. Yeah.
Klubnik.
Yeah. They really thought he was going to be something, and it really hasn't. They've mishandled recruiting. The recruiting pitches really haven't been, as high as they were before. I'm really questioning Clemson right now.
I mean,
other teams,
we made arguments for Duke, right? We made SMU beat Miami, Virginia. Like, I think those teams are kind of on the uptick. I think North Carolina is going to be better this year. I even think Florida State's going to be better this year. I think that is a conference that is on its way up, not the other way around.
There's some teams that have made some noise. Don't get me wrong. Duke is one of them. Duke is on the up. North Carolina, I just don't know yet. I can't say anything. It was so bad last year. I don't know what's going on there. Virginia Tech, though, under Coach Franklin, I do expect an uptick there. I still don't think he's a guy to really carry your program. I think he's more of a guy to set up shop, put everything together, get the recruiting in place, and then he falls off, somewhere, and that's when you need to bring in a new guy to finish the job. To be honest, Coach
Virginia went 11-3 last year. Like, they were a really good team.
But how did they do against like SEC talent? Do we know how they did there? Or even Big Ten?
I would have to go and look. I know they were 6-1 at home and 4-1 away, and then 1-1 at neutral sites. So I'd have to go break down their whole thing to remember exactly. Pull it up. But I just think the SEC and the ACC are so close to each other. I don't think it's as different as people may think.
It's fair. It's definitely fair.
The They beat Washington.
They lost to Georgia Tech. Nope, that's the ACC though.
Yep.
Did they play any SEC team?
I don't think so.
They did in the previous year's Gator Bowl. They got smoked by Ole Miss. Yeah, I don't think they played any SEC teams. So I don't know. I know they're getting better. Don't get me wrong. The ACC is getting better. I don't know where they stand yet. Like, I know Miami's going to continue to be good. They have the right idea, but it almost kind of feels like Miami is becoming what Clemson was until this past year, where they had the recruiting machine coming in with all the top recruits, and it was like 1A, 1B, just constantly turnover. You know what I mean? So I don't know. We'll definitely take a look at it. I think for another show, we'll definitely break down not Clemson, but the ACC in total and where they're at. I think we should definitely do that for an upcoming show. Everybody hit the like button. Mystic is here. Finally, were you able to? Did everything work out okay?
Just to give you guys a understanding of, when you hear about the term Iowa nice, it just tells you how simple the living is and how easy people have it here. And to give you a key example, this dog that, we're so nice to take care of for my wife's niece decides to get out of my back fenced-in yard. And within a 10 to 15, not even 15 minutes, he's probably out 10 minutes, gets 2 blocks to the west. There was 6 posts online. A lady picked him up and literally had him on the leash, and then a cop pulled up and was like, "Oh, good, you found the dog? That's awesome." Sometimes I'm just like, what in the fuck? Like, you must have it real easy if you're worried about a dog that got loose less than 10 minutes ago.
Sorry, I had to do it. That was kind of funny.
Dude, the shit that I deal with, man. I'm just like, what is happening?
That dog's
Oh,
lucky
shit.
it was in Florida. If it was Florida, he'd have been eaten by a gator by the time y'all found him.
I mean, shit, dude. It's Anyway,
Man,
yeah. So he's found, he's safe, he's secured, he's back. Tomorrow I won't have him anymore. It'll be great.
that's good. Well, I hope I know you won't have him tomorrow, but I hope everything is okay. So
Yeah, no. He's just being given back to the owner. That's all.
I gotcha. All right, everybody hit the like button. We're gonna go ahead and get started with this Georgia talk. I really blame Steve for this because we got in talking about ACC and had me thinking all these. Oh, all right, Steve, it's all your fault. No, I'm messing.
I was killing time for the homie.
Yeah, I know, for Mystic to come back for sure. All right. Let's get into it. So, for almost any program in America, a 12-win season, an SEC championship, and a college football playoff appearance would be celebrated as a major success, right? I would say so. Don't you agree, Mystic or Steve? Don't you think that would be a success? Well, unfortunately, Georgia is not almost any program, unfortunately. Right. Well, fortunately for them, but also unfortunately for all other schools. Kirby Smart has constructed a standard in Athens where conference championships are important, but national championship determine whether a season is truly remembered or not. The Bulldogs have now won back-to-back SEC titles, yet both seasons ended in college football playoff quarterfinals. First against Notre Dame, and then 39-34 loss against Ole Miss, which everybody knows I picked Georgia to win that game, right? I would argue Georgia had the harder hitting defense. I didn't think Ole Miss sniffed the chance, especially with that makeshift coaching staff and all the hoopla that was going on with the, with Lane Kiffin leaving. I do not know how Ole Miss pulled it off. Actually, I know how they pulled it off, but wow. And I don't think Georgia thought that would happen, especially after beating the lights out of Alabama. And I'll even argue that they should have beaten Alabama's lights out even more because they could have, to be honest. That is why Georgia in 2026 season is about more than just remaining near the top of the SEC. It's more proving that the Bulldogs will still play their, best game, right? Their best football when when the stage becomes kind of hard for them, right? When it matters the most, they're going to show up, right? Smart acknowledged that the exact issue at SEC Media Day, saying that Georgia must perform bigger in bigger moments, right? They need to perform in the big game, the SEC championship. They need to perform against their rivalry games, right? When the college football playoff comes, that's the biggest moment you're going to get, and you need to perform in that moment. So that's kind of what we're going to talk about today. We're going to break down Georgia, where they're at, how their season looked last year. We're going to talk about their offense. We're going to talk about, their overall program. But are they barking up a new throne, as you saw the title of this show, right? Are they finally back to that top of being the top of the SEC, or they're on the, the downward hill? We're going to kind of break that down. So let's talk about Georgia in 2025. Georgia finished 2025 with a 12-2 overall record that had a 7-1 SEC record. The Bulldogs' only regular season loss was a 24-21 home defeat against Alabama. But Georgia avenged that loss by beating the Crimson Tide 28-7 in the SEC championship game. Right? The 2025 offensive stats, just to kind of give you guys some perspective, they averaged 32.1 points per game, 402.4 total yards per game, 182.1 rushing yards per game, 220.2 passing yards per game, 5.6 yards per play, 43.4% on third down, and 75% on fourth down. Man, 75% conversion rate on fourth down. Holy crap. That means they played a lot of football on fourth down, huh, Steve?
Something like that.
Damn.
Jeez.
Yeah, the Bulldogs scored 57 offensive touchdowns and controlled the football for an average nearly 34 minutes per game. That's a hell of an offense. That's actually really good, to be honest, if you really think about it. Defensively, they averaged 17.6 points per game allowed, 298 total yards per game, 81.5 rushing yards per game. So they definitely had the run on lock. 216 passing yards per game, 4.9 yards per play, and 2.9 yards per rushing attempt. So they really had the run on lock. That's one thing I love about Georgia. You can always expect them to have a very well-coached defensive game. I'll even argue that to this day, at least for the last 2-3 years, they're pretty much the hardest hitting defense in college football, in my opinion. The defense remained elite against the run, but the pass defense was the most vulnerable last year. The Georgia's total yardage ranking initially suggests that Bulldogs also produced only 20 sacks in 14 games. Only 20. So that was part of the games, part of their game that they're missing. What do you guys think of the 2025 Georgia team and what they were able to accomplish? What do you guys think of it?
I think if it were any other team, like you kind of spoke at the beginning, if it was any other team, they would be happy. They underachieved significantly. That offense was really good. That defense was really good. They had no reason to get bounced out. They played with their food and paid the price.
I mean, they really beat everybody they were supposed to beat, right? They beat Georgia Tech. They beat all the off. I'll say them out of conference games, but like Charlotte, they beat all the teams that they needed to. Let's see, who did they play? It was here it is. Austin Pay. I'm not sure what school that is, right? I've never heard of that school, but they only beat them. It's 28-6, though. That's kind of interesting. I would assume a school like that that I've never heard of, you'd smoke the lights out of them, and only won 28-6, because that might be a question mark. But then you also look at, like, you had the Marshall game. Georgia beat them 45-7, right? They beat them. They beat Tennessee 44-41. They lost to Alabama, so there was some warning signs.
That's not even the worst one, my friend.
What, their worst loss?
No. So did they sit everybody for this Georgia Tech game, or did the starters play? Because only beating Georgia Tech 16-9 is crazy.
I don't know. That's what I'm saying. Like, I don't know what happened. Gunnar Stockton definitely played, but he only had 70 yards and 1 touchdown and 1 interception in that game. 70 yards. That means that there was no passing at all. They did run for 108 yards and 16 carries with Nate Frazier in that game. Yeah. I don't know what they did.
I'm still trying to figure out how they went to an overtime, just barely went over Tennessee.
I don't know. I don't know. Go ahead.
So I'm looking at this from maybe a different lens. The more I'm doing, more research and kind of digging on what things were. This was technically, from what I am understanding, Gunnar Stockton's first year under center was 2025. And a 12-2, 7-1 SEC conference record. Yeah, you have some games you definitely want to see better results, but you still for the most part got the results you want. Really, that home loss to Alabama early in the season probably shouldn't have happened, especially the way they handled him, in the SEC championship. But I think that's the maturity and the evolution of this team through the course of the season for them to come back around and say, "Hey, Alabama, I got something for you." All that being said, I think that just adds even more must-win animosity to that group this year. I think based on what you saw, you saw a team that can be very dominant.
Mm-hmm.
So if you don't see that team continue, if not elevate that level of play to be dominant through the whole course of the season and really make that playoff push to, the championship game, then yeah, there's definitely not going to be liked by that fan base for sure.
One thing I want to point out, the biggest statistical concern, right, with Georgia was their here's the thing about Georgia, right? Georgia was efficient, physical, difficult to beat, but it didn't consistently overwhelm opponents with an explosive offense, right? I want to say, looking at the numbers, because we mentioned earlier that Georgia averaged 32.1 points per game, so that's pretty good, right? They averaged 402.4 total yards per game, total offense, okay. 182.1 yards rushing, which is damn good. I think that's really good. And they averaged 220.2 passing yards per game. Okay, so they were a little bit more run heavy than the passing side. But looking at it, and the fact that they averaged 5.6 yards per play, that means every 2 plays they had a first down. I don't think that they efficiently managed or made the right calls on offense, if that makes sense. If you're telling me that you have all this yards and you average virtually, a first down every 2 plays, that means that you didn't efficiently move the ball around or properly. You were mismanaging your calls. You may have been passing the ball when you should have ran. And it caused that increase of having to play on 4th down, if that makes sense, right? So I think there might be a slight coaching concern or philosophy on the offensive play calling that may have contributed to this. Just going to point that out, because their defense still was really good, right? They held teams. They were physical. They were hard hitting, right? They definitely, against the run, they were elite, as we mentioned it. So I don't know. What do you guys think? Do you think that based on the numbers, there could be a coaching, offensive play calling type of issue with Georgia? I mean, they were averaging over 400 yards on offense, but and almost 200 yards in, I'll say 180 yards, but it's like 200 yards almost on in rushing. But why was it difficult for them to overwhelm their opponents?
I mean, it could be a number of things, right? Inexperience of the quarterback in key moments, right? Inconsistent run game. Like, yeah, I mean, it's going to come to coaching, but the guys on the field got to perform. Now, again, statistically, they're putting up the stats, right? But you can beat somebody too fast and allow them to get back into a game because you wore yourself down and you didn't take enough time off the clock.
Sure. It's true. Meanwhile, Kirby,
we saw that, didn't we? Like, we saw that with Georgia, with Ole Miss, wasn't it? They played with their food and then got beat because of it. Because didn't they have like a multiple score lead in that game at one point?
I want to say they did. They got up early, and Ole Miss had to claw their way back into the game. Actually, let me look that up. I'm pretty positive that's how it went down.
Yeah, I remember because we talked about, like, Georgia, part of their problem was they were playing with their food. They would get up on these teams and they would let them crawl back in on them.
So at halftime, they were leading the game 21-12, it looks like, during Ole Miss. And then
so they had a 2-score lead.
Yeah, and then they allowed Ole Miss in the third quarter to get a touchdown. But really, where Ole Miss came back, Ole Miss had to score 20 points in the fourth quarter. They basically got outscored in the fourth quarter. They couldn't put Ole Miss away, essentially.
Yeah, they played with their food. They kept playing with their food. They kept playing with their food all the way to the point where the food bit back.
Yeah, and you might be right. Gunnar Stockton might be the big question mark here, because he went 18 for 31. 18 for 31, 203 yards in that game and 1 touchdown. They didn't have a receiver or a rusher that had more than 100 yards in that game. So very interesting. I do want to say that Kirby Smart, enters his 11th season as Georgia's head coach. His program has won national championships. Yes, 2 national championships, SEC championships, major bowl games, recruiting battles at a rate unmatched by almost every program. We're talking about elite recruiting. I want to say Georgia knows elite recruiting. They've been doing it for years, right? However, Smart's 2026 challenge is different from the ones he's faced while building Georgia. The Bulldogs no longer need to prove they belong among college football's elite. They must prove their model, built heavily through high school recruiting, internal development, and selective portal usage, can continue defeating these top programs. That's what they need to prove. So the question is Georgia's development first model still the best way to win championships? Hold that thought, because we're going to break that down when we get into recruiting and breaking down the different, offense and defense and stuff. We're going to really think about that. But I do want to go and talk about something that someone brought up, Gunnar Stockton. Is he, the championship question at quarterback? Is he the championship quarterback you need? Right? He's 6'1", 215 pounds. He started 14 games in 2025 and finished 7th in Heisman Trophy voting. He earned 3rd team all SEC honors and was named MVP of Georgia's SEC championship victory over Alabama. To give you some stats, He went 269 of 386 passes, 69.7 completion rate, only 2,894 yards passing, 24 touchdowns, 5 interceptions, but he did have 150.6 passer rating. He added 462 rushing yards and 10 rushing touchdowns. So he has a little bit of a run package to him, just a little bit. What do you guys think of Gunnar Stockton and his performance? He doesn't seem like one of those elite type quarterbacks with the high efficiency that you saw from, Mendoza, or you saw from Julian Sayin, to give you an example. Those guys really, outperformed him, but he does look like he has some running ability that they were able to get, the rushing attack a little bit with him, especially having 10 touchdowns rushing. What do you guys think?
Honestly, I feel like I'm not gonna look. Me and Steve have been pretty hard on the kid. Conversations we've had prior to the show, and I think the more that I look at it, I don't know. I think might need to just pull that back. I think he's a really raw talent. I can't say that I know what I think his ceiling or what his floor is. I can tell you that he's good enough to have a 7-1 conference record in the SEC, which everyone thinks is, the SEC is one of those conferences, right?
Mm-hmm.
I need to see more. And I think that, again, us doing what we're doing, I'm going to be paying attention a lot more to college football and the little things, I think, more than I think I ever have. And he's going to be one of them. He has the ability to, I think, elevate himself into one of those better quarterbacks, but it's going to take a lot. I think he's very inconsistent at times. And I think, again, what was that stat earlier? You said 18 for like 33 or something like that.
Oh, he went 18 for 31 in that game that we mentioned.
It's very, like I said, very up and down with him at times. It's like you got to find that sweet spot. Once you get him on a groove, then he's good. But if you don't get him on a groove throughout the game, then you'll have that up and down, which is what you don't want. You need to find a happy medium somehow, right?
Mm-hmm.
He reminds me too much of another Georgia quarterback, Stetson Bennett. That's what he reminds me of. It's just inconsistent. Like, he had an okay year. I mean, ultimately he ended up with 34 touchdowns and like just over 3,000 yards total in total yardage, right? That's good for a college quarterback. You sit there and you watch the games and it's like, it's okay. It's just not. It's not what the stats say it is, if that makes sense, right? Like, we see it all the time with these kids where the stats say they're way better than they are. Like a player we all know, right? Taj Washington had 1,000 yards receiving his final year at I believe it was USC, and he can't even get on the field in the NFL without fumbling a ball, right? Like, stats don't always show what a player is. When you really look at Gunnar Stockton, you see very inconsistent play, bad decisions in key moments. And now, again, he's a 3-year player. He's been in college for 3 years. He's only started this year as a true starter, right?
Mm-hmm.
But like, you have to be able to have to a point now, your 3rd year in college, you should be able to diagnose and make better decisions. So right now, it ain't good enough. The offense is great because there's great weapons. They just lost who I think was their best receiver in Zachariah Branch, right? Like, they're going to have to find more answers. Now, most of their offense is still intact, so they're going to have good running backs. They went and got a nice running back that I think is going to help them as a goal line back, 6'2", 225 pounds, had double-digit touchdowns last year in like short yardage situations. So they're going to lean even more into that run game that Georgia does. But Gunner's he's got to be better in those key moments, in my opinion. Again, this is just my opinion. I just think he needs to be better in those situations. And he may be this year. We'll find out.
I was looking in at the stats, and I was looking at games where they won and like the margin of winning and everything, and what was going well, what's not going well. To me, he seems like one of these quarterbacks that he needs to have a really strong running game behind him, right? Because I don't think, in my opinion, I don't think Georgia has the receivers to really take the game so the quarterback doesn't have to worry about it. So he needs to rely on a strong running game. When I look at some of these games, the games that they either didn't win or they won hardly by anything, they didn't have anybody running more than 100 yards rushing. They had like a 30-yard rusher there, 30-yard rusher there. But you know what? You know who was scoring all the rushing touchdowns? Gunnar Stockton was. Right? It's almost like he doesn't have that running, that rushing attack that behind him to take the pressure off of him, so he doesn't have to, rely on himself or make these quick decisions that he shouldn't be. I just wanted to point that out. I want to say last year was one of the more disappointing years when it comes to rushing that Georgia has had over the last couple of years. Because back when they had like Trevor Etienne, I'll give you an example. Gunnar Stockton played against Texas in that game, if you guys remember. And it was Georgia won 22-19. They had a guy named Trevor Etienne on that team that ran for 94 yards and 2 touchdowns. You go look at another game with Gunnar Stockton. He's the one doing 2 touchdowns, but nobody's running for 94 yards, and they end up just winning the game by 1 or 2 points, to give you an example, right? So that's why I'm kind of saying maybe the rushing game needs to be looked at as well. I don't know if it's their talent. I don't know if it's their play calling. What's contributing to it? That's a big question mark. But hopefully we break that down tonight. Everybody hit the like button. So let's get into this offense, right? So we've already talked about Gunnar Stockton and, the type of quarterback that he is. It's whether he can win games or not, and they can rely on him solely when they need to. But really, it's going to be up to Mike Bobo and Georgia's offensive identity that is really going to make the difference. Offensive coordinator Mike Bobo produced an offense that averaged 32 points per game and more than 400 yards per game in 2025. Sounds really good. This means criticism surrounding him cannot simply be that Georgia's offense was ineffective. That's not true, because you're putting up all these yards. That's why I kind of feel like it might be a play calling philosophy. In kind of looking at it, it's like sometimes I felt like maybe you passed when you should have ran. Maybe you ran when you should have passed. That's kind of how I'm looking at these stats and how they're skewed either one way or the other. The criticism is that the attack was not consistently explosive. That's absolutely true. Georgia depended heavily on methodical drives, third down efficiency, Stockton scrambling. Remember I said that he has some run ability to him? Him scrambling a lot was essentially how they got some of their offense going. Winning field position, that's a big thing, and avoiding turnovers. He definitely avoided turnovers. I have to give it to him. I just don't know if this works. They didn't have either a run-first mentality or more of a balanced offense, in my opinion. It's going to be very interesting. What needs to change? Georgia doesn't need to abandon its physical identity at all. I think they need to keep that. But I think they need to add more stress to opposing defenses, more vertical play action throws, more pre-snap movements, I think would be beneficial. Running back routes against linebackers, more early down passing, or even designed opportunities to receivers in space, right? These are all things that Georgia can do better, I feel, or add more to. So the debate is Mike Bobo being unfairly criticized? Or do you think that maybe because of the lack of some of these things I think they needed to add, do you think that is maybe why he's getting criticism? Because the play calling wasn't really there. It wasn't explosive enough. It may not have been calling certain plays when they should have. Like, what do you guys think?
How long has Bobo been there?
Oh shit! Now I have to look that up. Give me a second. I'll tell you in a second.
Yeah, I suppose I could have done that, but I wasn't sure if you had that in front of you. My bad.
He was with Colorado State till 2019, and then he came to Georgia in 90. Actually, hold on. No. He became the Georgia offensive analyst in 22, and he's been since 23. He's been the OC quarterback coach.
Okay, so 3 years. Yeah,
I didn't know this, but Bobo was their quarterback from 93 to 97.
that's pretty cool.
Yeah, I didn't know that.
Yeah, I think just like his quarterback, you got to find more consistency within your play calling and within the execution of that offense, just to keep it short and sweet.
Yeah. What do you think, Steve?
I mean, since he's been there, Georgia went 13-1, 11-3, and 12-2, and in both the last 2 seasons they've lost in the Sugar Bowl. So you might be right. There might be a coaching problem. Maybe we're too harsh on Gunnar Stockton, and maybe it is a coaching issue. I don't know. Again, like I said, they're playing with their food late in games, and it's getting them in trouble. So it's got to be somebody's fault.
And then part of me kind of feels that maybe this Georgia system altogether, not just the offense, but just the team itself, is just a system. It's a system program, almost kind of like what we saw with New England with Bill Belichick, right? One guy goes down, don't worry, we have some guy can just fill the spot. And it's just a system, right? I kind of feel that. I know there's a lot of Miami Dolphins fans probably watching the show, but let's not forget, didn't we have a linebacker we got from Georgia? And we kind of felt like he felt lost. And after looking back on how we drafted him, a lot of people felt that he really just had advantages in his position based on who was around him, not so much that it was all on him.
Channing Tindall.
Yeah, Channing Tindall, right?
Yeah, he was just a supreme athlete, and Georgia's system allowed him to just be an athlete.
Yeah. Who was the other linebackers around him that I felt was much more superior? Jacoby Dean, was that one of them that was there?
Oh, I'd have to go back and check. It's been so
long. There was quite
a
few defensive players from that draft that came from Georgia that I felt that may be the reason why he looked good and he doesn't necessarily be as good as what we thought. But yeah, it's really interesting. I think part of it you could look at Gunnar Stockton, but then part of it I have to take a step back and say, okay, where on the offense were we ineffective? I would argue our rushing attack wasn't very effective. Just like Ohio State. I talk about Ohio State a lot because I'm a fan and I know what happened to us. Even though we have an awesome running back at Bo Jackson and even great running back with Isaiah West, we couldn't get that running game going effectively. I don't know what the reasons why Georgia couldn't get their running game going, but the stats they maximized in different areas. So the overall season, it looks good, but was it really that effective? That's the question. It wasn't a championship run effectiveness, if you know what I mean. So let's look at the running backs. You got guys like Nate Frazier, running back. 5'10", 205 pounds. Frazier is Georgia's unquestioned lead back entering 2026. He rushed for 947 yards in 2025, and he also, I guess, was pretty okay. He helped anchor Georgia's rushing attack that averaged 182.1 yards per game. So that's what they averaged. I just don't see it. It doesn't really show up in the stats, to be honest. What do you think of Nate Frazier? You guys have any thoughts on him?
I mean, I think he's a good running back. 900 yards. It could have been better.
Yeah.
I'm very intrigued by the kid they just got transferred in from Oregon, Dante Dowell. Like that's a big body who had in 2024 had 12 touchdowns and 600 rushing yards at 6'2" and 225 pounds. I think they may have even something else in that kid. I think their rushing game will be better this year. Frazier's gonna step up though
I believe
as that lead.
played for Kentucky at one point, I think, right?
Yeah, he played for Kentucky, Nebraska, and Oregon. It was
Mm,
at Nebraska, I think he had all those touchdowns.
I gotcha. So yeah, I think that's going to be really interesting. They have other backs to watch, like Bo Walker, James Lamar, Micah Bell, Wade Penn. But Dante Towell is going to be interesting. I do think that Nate Frazier is going to be their lead guy. He's probably going to get anywhere from 1,000 yards to 1,200, maybe 10 to 14 touchdowns. I could see it. All SEC consideration. I think they'll make it more of a focus to have their running game more, focused on more, maybe. That's what the hope is. The hope is that they actually transition their offense and make some of these changes a lot more. What do you guys think about the wide receiver room? Right? Georgia's receiver corps underwent major turnover after Zachariah Branch and Dylan Bell left for the NFL. Branch set Georgia's single record season with 81 receptions in 2025, producing 811 yards and 6 touchdowns. Look, I've said this for a while. In the last couple of years, I would say the last 2 specifically, Georgia's wide receivers have been good. They're just not elite. They're just not the top end of top end receivers, right? They don't have the Jeremiah Smiths. They don't have the Malachi Tonys or Makai Lemons of the world. They don't have that. So I think that's something that the reason that I think Carson Beck went to Miami, first of all, because Miami had Malachi Tony. They had other receivers that, a really high-end receiver. And that's something that I think is missing from the Georgia program altogether. What do you guys think of that?
I got a hot take for you.
Go ahead.
I don't know whose wide receiver room's worse, Georgia or USF's.
Damn. I mean, They also have a guy named London Humphreys. Have you looked at him? He enters 2026 as one of Georgia's most important returning receivers. He has experience, size, ability, 6 foot. No, he's not 6'4". Where is it? No, but they have another guy named Isaiah Cannon that's 6'4", 215 pounds. He's a 4-star transfer.
Yeah. Humphreys had 276 yards on 18 receptions for 3 touchdowns last year. The Cannon kid had, I think it was like 400 yards last year and 3 touchdowns. That's nowhere near even.
It sounds like besides obviously the guy that's returning, they need to get some of these underclassmen that are coming in to perform. Because it looks like besides those guys, they got a tight end that kind of like leads the talent in the room, which is crazy. But they got this underclassman, Talon Taylor. I guess they're expecting big things out of him. So we'll see. What's the name? What am I looking for here? Not underrated or overrated, just very unknown. There you go. They're a very unknown room. Don't know what to expect from them. I think the running back room's going to have a lot more to say about this offense than the wide receivers. But if Gunnar Stockton wants any sort of production as a quarterback, he needs to get these pass catchers to do something. But I think that's going to be the biggest question so far that I see on the team.
The other question is, are they going to be able to replace the NFL departures that they had along the offensive line? Georgia, over the past couple of years, have always had a really strong offensive line. Now they have a lot of NFL departures. They're going to have to try to replace a lot of players. Key returning players look like Ernest Green III. Green's returns to Georgia's most recognizable offensive tackle. His experience against elite SEC defensive fronts make him essential to protecting Stockton's blind side. and stabilizing the unit. Now, here's something interesting, and I didn't know this. Drew Bobo, yes, Drew Bobo, represented Georgia's Georgia at SEC Media Day and projects as a leader along the interior. His value comes from communication, experience, and understanding of the offense. Well, yeah, he has understanding of the offense because his dad is the offensive coordinator. Mike Bobo is his dad. So my question to you, and I guess for me, I have this taste for athletes that played for their father. Very few of them really live up to expectations, if you know what I mean. I don't think I've seen one to date that really lived up to the expectation. So, do you think that that could be some areas of concern too? Having your son play on the team that they have a lot to prove. I don't know. What do you guys think? I'm just making a storyline here. It's a talking point to me. At least I think so.
If it was, like a quarterback or something, I'm like maybe concerned, but I think this might help the fact that he's the center and he understands what these offensive linemen need to be doing for these plays to develop and or for the running lanes to open. Like, I think that can only bode well for the team personally, but I could also work against it because who knows? Do we know that Bobo's the best center on the team? Like one of those things, right? Double-edged sword.
I don't know. I mean, to be honest, you have a point. This isn't a quarterback position, right? This isn't like a skill position. This is, offensive lineman. He at least knows what the expectation is to be able to run his dad's offense, right? I guess I just have an issue with it because then as a coach, you're going to make, in my opinion, it kind of tempts you to make decisions and play calling that's going to benefit your child. That's what I don't like about, kids playing for their fathers or mothers, depending on what sport it is, to be honest. But you get what I'm saying? I that's just how I feel about it. If my kid was playing on the soccer team, which my daughter played soccer, if I'm the head coach, I'm going to try to get her in all the sweet spot school positions and have her all do all the cool stuff, right? It's my kid, right? I can't trust myself not to put my daughter in that type of situation because I always want the best for her. So that's why I told her, when you play sports, I'm not going to be your coach. I'll root for you, but I'm not going to be your coach because I don't want to have to make those decisions, So that's just me. I'm not strong enough to do that. What do you think, Steve? What do you think about this offensive line? They have other names too. Dontrell Glover, Daniel Calhoun, all these guys, very large, provide interior size, strength, experience. What do you think?
Well, they got Juan Gaskin, who's now a sophomore this year, who's a 5-star recruit they got in the class last year playing right tackle. So I think their offensive line is going to be just fine. Like I know they had those departures, but I have nowhere's near the questions about their offensive line that I do their wide receiver unit.
Yeah, the wide receiver unit. I'm telling you, man. I just that was the knock on them in 24, and I will say that's the knock on them in 25. They got guys. They don't have elite top end guys. They don't have great receivers. That's the problem. But on the offensive line, they brought in some people too. You got guys like transfer Tyquez Richardson from Alabama A&M, played offensive tackle. He's 6'5", 330 pounds. You also have another guy. This is a recruit they brought in, Akine Agaboko, 6'6", 312 pounds. He was number 72 nationally, number 8 offensive tackle, 4-star tackle that they brought in. He possesses some long-term potential, what I'm reading. So it's just kind of interesting. I think the biggest question mark looking at it, I thought it would be Gunnar Stockton. But, I don't know if it's him or the offensive play calling. And then there's also the receivers. I'm not very impressed with these receivers. I think there's some question marks here. I think they may have they brought in good receivers. They just didn't bring in great receivers, right? They don't have like the offensive wide receiver skill set that Ohio State or LSU has, or maybe even Indiana has. Because I would like to see Marsh and Becker in on a Georgia team versus an Indiana team and see what happens. You know what I'm saying? I think those guys are better. I'm just saying that. Okay, so that brings us defense. Does the defense still have the identity that they once had? Right? Georgia's defense returns considerable talent. You know, they brought back a lot of talent for sure, with 8 defensive starters reportedly back. The front is led by one of the most promising young defensive tackles in the country. You have guys like Elijah Griffin. You know, he's a 6'4", 310-pound defensive lineman. Griffin played in all 14 games as a freshman and earned freshman all SEC honors. He recorded 22 tackles, 2.5 tackles for loss, 1 sack, 1 forced fumble, and 1 pass breakup. You have guys like Jordan Hall, Xavier McLeod, Gabe Harris. You know, not to mention their edge rush room. They have, you know, and there's the Amaris Williams injury. That's another thing to be considered about. Williams was rated as Georgia's highest ranked incoming transfer by 24/7 Sports. 6'2", 260 pounds from Auburn. However, William is expected to miss the 2026 season, unfortunately, because of significant injury. That is a major loss. The edge room is kind of questionable. Players who must contribute: Quintavious Johnson, Gabe Harris is a name that I mentioned earlier. Joseph Ajani, I think that's how you say it, provides size and pass rush. You know, some of the same people. I don't know. What do you think about their front defense? Are you comfortable with it, Steve? Do you have questions? Like, what do you think?
I think that injury you just spoke of is catastrophic because they have no proven edge rush. Like, Gabe Harris is the only one. They don't have like that double-digit sack guy. Like, their defensive tackle's good, but he's not really a sack machine at defensive tackle. They're going to be relying a lot on just an overall unit than one guy being able to actually make a turn in the game.
Mm-hmm. What do you think, Mystic?
So having 8 guys return, 8 guys return on defense is actually 8 starters. 8 starters returning. It's actually kind of a big deal. I think this might be the better unit overall on this team. Easily could carry the team if you're not careful. This secondary looks like they definitely have a possibility. Looks like Ellis Robinson the 4th is viewed as an elite NFL prospect. Looks like he led the SEC in interceptions last season. So looks like you got a pretty good safety on the back end with KJ Bolden. And looks like they got a transfer from Clemson that everyone's kind of got some high regards. One of the nation's best defensive backfields is what people are saying. So interesting to see what that's going to turn into. Mm-hmm. Again, to Steve's point, if you don't have enough on that front line, it doesn't matter how good you guys are in the back end. They can't cover for 10 seconds.
Look, one thing is for sure, Kirby Smart definitely knows how to coach up his defense for sure, right? And he has the right assistant coaches and everything there to make sure that they're still going to be one of the harder hitting defenses, especially if you're lacking somewhere, which, to be honest, it looks like it is the edge position. I think their plan was the transfer portal, and that guy was going to carry it for them. And it just, unfortunately, with that injury, it's not going to happen, right? But if they play tough and strong up front, right, with their defensive linemen, maybe the linebackers, which, you know, CJ Allen isn't there anymore, right? So you look at the linebacker position, and that might be kind of questionable. You have guys like Raylan Wilson, Zayden Walker, Justin Williams, to give you an example. Those guys, you know, if they can just hold it down and do their job, the secondary will clean up everything else. So
Chris Cole is one of their interior offensive linemen. Is really good.
Chris
The- I,
Cole.
yeah, Chris Cole's really good. He had, I believe, it was 7 sacks last year, or 4.5 sacks, 7 TFLs. Like he's actually a really good interior linebacker. So I'm not. I I think their strength is their linebacker, their second level to their defensive back room. Like
Mhm.
that part of their defense, I think, is why they can stand to have an edge room that's not overly producing because they're giving that defensive line a little extra time to get where they need to go.
Yep. Yeah, I kind of agree with that. Any other thoughts on their defense?
No, I'm good.
So then we're going to go to the transfer portal, right? So how you fill in some of these holes? You look at the transfer portal, who they brought in. Amaris Williams, that was your whole plan at edge, and it's unfortunately with the injury. They did kind of restock in the corner position with Gentry Williams, Braylon Conley, both USC and Oklahoma corners. And then you brought in Jamarly Riddle, the safety out of East Carolina. East Carolina we've been talking a lot about East Carolina lately, haven't we, Mystic? We mentioned them a few times. I won't even say this past Thursday we mentioned them also. I've noticed that. It is going to be very
USF
interesting.
got a coach from them too.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true. So I mean, it's just kind of interesting. What will happen? They had 24/7 Sports lists 16 outgoing Georgia transfers. Many were depth players rather than established starters, though Georgia still lost roster experience and former highly rated recruits seeking larger roles elsewhere, right? So that's kind of what they lost. But then their recruiting class, Georgia enrolled 32 high school prospects in 2026. 32, right? Number 9 in the 24/7 Sports rankings, number 6 in the 24/7 Sports composite. They had Valdin Sohn, defensive lineman, 6'3", 316 pounds. Caden Porthrow, the tight end, 6'6", 210-pound tight end. Dealing with the offensive lineman I mentioned before, the Ogboko offensive tackle. That's a big boy.
That is a thin ass tight end.
What is he? 6'6",
6'6", 210.
He's built like a wide receiver, and he's 6'6". Let me tell you. They are saying that he has elite receiver upside. That's what they're saying on him, by the way. That's Caden.
Well, somebody get him an elite receiver diet and turn him into a damn receiver, or go get this man some collard greens and pork necks because he needs to put some damn weight on. 210 at tight end is nasty work.
Yeah, I can see that. They brought in some other receivers. They have Craig Dandridge, wide receiver, PJ Dean at edge. They have some guys, right? They brought some guys, but they don't have experience, right? They're going to be coming in raw, unfortunately. So we'll definitely see. Their recruiting is still going to be good. I still think they have one of the top recruiting classes, top 10, obviously. The average age on Georgia's team. You know what the average age is, Steve?
20.
Almost 19, just under 20. It's like 19.81 years, to be honest. Now they're very young for their team, so it's very interesting. I kind of like seeing that. It's kind of similar to what Ohio State has done. There's a lot more youth on the team now than previous years. Let's talk about their schedule and project where they're, kind of where they're going to be going. They start the season off, I believe, against Tennessee State. Let me verify if that's
correct.
What do you guys think? Tennessee State versus.
That's what I got. Before we continue this too, I think, again, looking more as I look into this thing, they kind of got younger, right, in a lot of positions. It looks like they're trying to get some, again, raw talent and develop them moving forward. You had a true freshman, that Amaris Williams, that they got from Auburn, things like that.
I don't know if he was a true freshman, but he was a transfer for sure.
They have the lowest strength of schedule in the SEC this year. And I think that also helps improve when you got a roster like that. You got to take advantage of those opportunities as well.
Yeah, I don't think they have a difficult game until week 4 against Oklahoma on September 26th.
Agreed. And then I think they got their next hard game is kind of 2 weeks after that, and they got a back-to-back, in my opinion, Alabama, Auburn type stuff, right?
If they don't get their shit together by Auburn, they're gonna be in for a rough ride. I promise you.
All right. I gotta jump in here because Steve has been promising me that Auburn is not to be messed with, right? I'm gonna give you a hot take, Steve. You ain't gonna like it. I think Georgia goes in there and whoops Auburn's ass because I don't really think Auburn's gonna be that great this year. That's just how I feel.
I mean, you can believe that. We won't find out. You can take that hot take. Go ahead and sleep on Ghoulish and Bynum Brown. Florida did that too, and they learned the hard fucking way.
Well, there's something called a transition, and I think it's going to take a little bit to transition to where they're at. That's just my thoughts. I don't know. I just have this feeling that you're hyping them up, and then we're going to be let down. That's how I feel. But we'll see.
I mean, it might be, but I'm just saying when you have a quarterback who does something that only 4 other quarterbacks in the history of college sports ever done, I think he's earned the right to say, I'm gonna whoop somebody's ass. If Georgia don't got their shit together before they play Auburn, and again, like I said, like I understand it's the American Conference. I understand all that. USF was actually a really good fucking team last year, and Auburn got every good player I had, including the coach that turned my entire conference. They made USF, that's been a laughing stock for years, look competent. Like, that's how good Ghoulish is. I'm telling you, do not sleep on Auburn. I'm not telling you they're going to win a national championship, but they will beat people that are overlooking them.
Fair enough. Fair enough. We'll see. We'll see. I will say this. If Auburn beats Georgia, Auburn beats Alabama. That's just how I feel. Because if they can beat Georgia, they can beat Alabama. Even with this Georgia team. But let's start from the top and work our way down and make projections for each game, right? Tennessee, I think that's a win. Do you guys agree with that?
Absolutely.
Win. What is this? West Kentucky University? Is that what WKU is?
Western Kentucky. Yep.
I think that's a win.
Easy.
Win.
Okay. Here's an interesting one, and I want you guys' perspective. Georgia versus Arkansas.
Win.
Taylen Green and Mike Washington are gone. That's a win.
I'm going to say they beat Arkansas, but it's one of those like 16-3 type of games where they don't beat them like they should really beat them, to be honest. If you understand what I'm saying by that. I'm not going to say it's going to be 16-3. It's just going to be not that big of a win, but it's going to be a win. Does that make sense?
I like your take. Ollie, but I think you're a game ahead. I think they go into Arkansas and handle them. They go back to play Oklahoma and barely get out.
Oh, I don't think they handle Oklahoma. I think Georgia loses to Oklahoma.
I think it's a walk-off field goal nail biter. They got lucky at home. That's what I think it is.
Oh, wait. Oklahoma is at home, isn't it?
That's what I'm saying. So they go to Arkansas. I think they handle that, but then they come home after getting some confidence, and they almost give one away, but barely handle their business at home.
I agree with Mystic on that one. I think they get humbled by Oklahoma, but I think they do win the game.
Interesting. All right. What about the what's the next game? Vanderbilt.
They stay home for Vanderbilt.
I can't bet on Vanderbilt games anymore because every time I bet against them, I lose. So I can't anymore.
Honestly, I think after losing Diego Pavia and some things that they lost, I think they're going to kind of have another little downtrend. I think they're going to play hard, but I think ultimately Georgia handles that. They get to at that point I'd have them 5-0 traveling to Alabama, which would be, in my opinion, their first loss of the season.
Fair enough. So you're saying Alabama's going to be their first loss?
Correct.
Okay. Then you got Auburn. You're on that train with Auburn beating Georgia?
I think they come back, and I think it's a close game. I think they have the last possession of the game, and they're able to take care of business because Auburn at this point will have been pretty much halfway through their season. That's about that point, right? And I think
Mhm.
by then Auburn will have figured out what they're doing with the system, with the talent, and that quarterback. From what I'm hearing from Steve, he's going to flourish with SEC talent. Don't doubt that at all.
Mm. I'm gonna say I'm gonna predict that Georgia wins, but it's one of those like by a field goal, maybe less than 10 points kind of game. Because it's
I
still
think
at
this.
home. Because it's still at home. But go ahead. Go ahead.
I think they beat Vanderbilt. I think they beat Alabama. I think Auburn again. Like I just think it's a coin flip for me. Georgia overall should be the better team. They absolutely should be the better team, but I think they sleep on Auburn and lose because they didn't finish their food.
I have Georgia losing to Alabama. At Alabama, I think Georgia loses that game. Now, when you go to Florida, I think they're going to wipe the floor with Florida.
That's the best part, though. They're not going to Florida. It's a neutral site. It looks like, from what I'm seeing here, the game's being played at a neutral site this year, which is weird.
It's not really neutral. I believe it's being played at Atlanta.
Yeah, like what?
Yeah, it's not even neutral. That's not even a neutral site. I
That's
think it's
wild.
because, aren't they rebuilding the new stadium for the Swamp or no? There's a reason behind it.
I don't know. I'll have to look into that. I'm kind of been out of touch with Florida, if I'm being honest. I've been tired of their lack of wanting to be a good organization. Yeah, I think they handle Florida. It's right after a bye week. It'll give them 2 weeks to basically prepare for that. They'll take care of business. I have their second loss of the season against Shambliss and Ole Miss.
See, I think Georgia wins that game. Revenge. I think Georgia's going to go in that game with a fire under their ass, ready to fist fight somebody.
I got a hot take though. Here's why. Obviously, they're going to Ole Miss. I think Ole Miss takes care of them, but then they're going to end up playing Ole Miss. In my opinion, I could see them playing them in like not the SEC, but they like somehow get into the college football playoff and they beat it with the playoff.
Just so you know, it says that I don't know if they're playing at Atlanta yet, by the way, but
Okay.
The game is, I believe, generally played in Jacksonville, right? Normally. Yeah, the Georgia-Florida game is primarily played in neutral site due to historical tradition because of, they usually sell out the stadium and everything. So from what I understand, they've played in Jacksonville for a decade because it generates millions of dollars. But isn't Jacksonville rebuilding their stadium? They're having to play in Orlando this season.
I don't know if that was totally finalized on playing in Orlando.
Well, that was finalized.
Okay.
Yeah, because the city already welcomed them and had a whole celebration. Let me see what year that starts, though. Yeah, the Jacksonville Jaguars will play at games at Camping World Stadium in Orlando for the entirety of the 2027 season. So it's next season that they're actually playing their entire season then. So I guess I don't know why they're not playing in Jacksonville. That's kind of weird. I don't know. That's something to look at. So that being said, you guys have Georgia beating Florida, right?
Yes.
I'm showing on ESPN. I'm showing ESPN has it that that's a home game for Georgia.
That's what I thought, but you said neutral site.
Yeah, I found something else that said neutral site. That's wild. Okay, so
yeah, but if you click on it, on ESPN, if you click on it, Mystic, it says 3:30 p.m. Mercedes-Benz Stadium, Atlanta, Georgia.
Yeah, they are playing Atlanta. That's what I thought.
Okay, yeah. So I was right. Okay.
Yeah, it's kind of weird. That's not really a neutral site in my opinion. Just
No, so that's another Georgia home game. Georgia's getting that dub. I'm sticking on the Old Miss, and then Georgia wins out.
Yep. So Ole Miss, I'm sticking with Ole Miss. I think Ole Miss beats Georgia. Missouri is an interesting one. They've had some talent over the years. They just haven't really been putting it together. That could be a toss-up game, to be honest. And then South Carolina, no, they did bring in some talent. They got their quarterback back. That's some question marks.
Here's an interesting. ESPN has Georgia a 69% favorite over Ole Miss.
I don't agree with that.
I love it. Give me the underdog. Oh,
I if it works out the way I think Ole Miss has a chance. I'll go ahead and say that Georgia beats South Carolina and they beat what was the other team that I'm missing?
Georgia Tech.
Yeah, Georgia. Was it Georgia Tech at the very end?
yep.
Yeah.
No, it was Missouri.
Nope. Missouri.
No, they
on
play
November
Missouri after
14th.
Old Miss, and then at South Carolina, and then at home
What I was
versus
saying
Georgia
is
Tech.
that Missouri would lose to Georgia, South Carolina would lose to Georgia. I'm gonna say Georgia Tech beats Georgia. Hot take. Georgia Tech always plays somebody and upsets somebody they shouldn't. I'm
Man,
picking.
you hear this, Steve? He's saying he's pretty much saying that Georgia Tech is better than Bynum Brown and Auburn. Do you hear this?
Yeah, I don't know about all that.
All I'm gonna say is that the devil went down to Georgia and he made a deal with the Techs. So Georgia Tech for the win.
It sounds like it popped out of Bulldog. Oh wait,
Yeah. I will literally Venmo you $20 if Georgia Tech beats Georgia. That would be insane.
it's recorded.
It is recorded. This is
I love it. I love it.
That is fine.
Let's see what their record is. Here we go.
So I put any null and voids in there for Steve's sake if Georgia sits all the starters.
That's funny. Here we go. I want to see the last couple times. The last time that Georgia Tech beat Georgia was 2016.
10 years ago. Uh-oh.
Yep. And last year, on November 28th, they only beat Georgia Tech 16-9. That's one touchdown.
Yeah, that's what I was talking about earlier. I don't know if the starters played or what that was.
I don't know. Beyond that, they've been able to beat them by double digits across the board.
Yeah, I'm not scared. I still stand by what I said. There's no way in hell Georgia Tech is beating Georgia.
All I know is that like every couple years, I want to say it's like every 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 years, they somehow find a way to win. I'm due. So yeah, I'm saying they're gonna win. This is a recorded episode. Steve said he will transfer me $20, right? That's what you said, Steve?
Yep.
If Georgia Tech ends up upsetting Georgia, we'll see. I'm going Georgia Tech.
Unfortunately, it will be $20 in backwoods.
Shit, $20 in hot boxing.
I'm just kidding. I always pay more bets.
Damn. I will pay bets. Just give me a little bit to pay.
That's why I don't pay big bets.
God damn.
Yeah, damn. That's funny. All right. So what do you guys think? What do you guys think at home? Everyone hit the like button. We just broke down Georgia. I think they're gonna be, I don't know if they're gonna be SEC contenders next year or this year. I don't know. Their defense looks good up front, but then the edge is a big question mark, and that's so important to defenses, to be honest. So that's something to think about. I don't like their receiving core at all. I mean, Steve hates it. He thinks the USF receivers are better than these guys, right? I don't like some of the way it looks like the calls were skewed. I don't know if that was from the offensive coordinator, like there's whoever makes the calls. I don't know if that's the issue, or is it really just the quarterback's fault? I don't know. It's hard to say because they averaged a shit ton of yards and scored a lot of points. So it just tells me it's mismanaged calling. It may be the problem. What do you guys think? Put it in the chat. Who do you guys think is going to win the Georgia Tech game? Is it going to be Georgia Tech or is it going to be Georgia? I'm going Georgia Tech. I think they're due. That's why I'm going with them. What do you guys think? Is Kirby Smart going to return Georgia to the greatness or to the throne of the SEC? That's a big question. What do you got, Steve?
I got a question for you. As a Ohio State fan, what wide receiver on Georgia's offense is better than Bryson Rodgers?
You thought about it too long. None.
That's a good question. What receiver on the Georgia team is as good as any Ohio State receiver that's on the roster right now?
Well, I'm asking that because he's now a Bull.
I know why you're asking it. I just I don't have an answer for you yet. Like Rodgers is good, but he didn't get showcased at Ohio State the way that I think he has the talent to be showcased. So it's still kind of questionable, but if you go back and look at the other Ohio State receivers, there's nobody. I mean, look at Alabama. You know who what is it? Coleman Williams? You know who he is, which I did find out the reason why he changed his name, by the way. The reason that Coleman Williams changed his name is in honor of his mother's maiden name. So shout out to him. If he's doing it for his mom, I can never argue it, no matter what. I didn't even argue it no matter what because it's whatever he wants to be referenced by. I just didn't know he had changed his name. But my point is that if you look at all these teams, even look at Indiana's, you look at Oregon's, you know who their starting big-time receiver is, right? In the last 2 seasons, I don't think Georgia's had that all-time big-time receiver that, this is their go-to guy, in the receiving room. Can you name who it is?
I mean, Zachariah Branch was kind of their guy.
Maybe Zachariah Branch, but I'm not afraid of Zachariah Branch. That's kind of what I'm getting at. I'm not really afraid of him. Everybody has a receiver that I would say is, that you'd be afraid of. I'm not afraid of him. So that's kind of what my point is. Look at former Georgia receivers. Let's look who they are. And there's some really,
in my opinion, they haven't had a big time quarterback since Stafford. So
that's a fair analysis. I'll give it to you. But look at this. They had AJ Green, right? They don't have an AJ Green on that team. They had Terrence Edwards at one point. Brock Bowers. There's no Brock Bowers on this team. You know what I'm saying? That's kind of what I'm trying to get at, is that they don't have that top elite receiver that they usually had in previous years. Hold on one second.
And that's why I made the statement I did. I know people think I was trying to be funny. I was being dead ass serious when I said that, because I got a 4-star transfer from Ohio State.
Yeah.
The school that just so happens to find all the best receivers. I'm just saying.
I get you. I mean, look at this, right? Look who they had in 2021. You know who they had? George Pickens, right? George Pickens was there. That's a big time name, in my opinion. You look at other guys that they've had, Lad McConkey. Even though he was a 2nd-round pick, I still think he was a pretty darn good receiver for them.
I love Lad. I wanted to draft him.
Yeah. So I mean, that's what I'm just trying to say, is that they don't have like that big time name that you may have saw in the past. Let me actually go further back this past 4 years. Let me see who else they've had. It's been a hot minute, I want to say. They had Miko Hardman there, right, at one point. Yeah, they haven't had anybody that's really that I could say is like, wow, this guy was top end at the time. You know what I mean? It's been a hot minute since they've had that type of receiver. So for me, it's just like the receiving core is like, eh. And I think that's their problem. I want to say that was their problem with Beck was there. That was their problem last year. You know what I mean? But I don't know. Everyone hit the like button. We're going to go ahead and go straight into the bottom line and get final thoughts and close up shop here. But thank you for joining us. Make sure. So it's been a crazy wild show already. We broke down Georgia, some conflicting thoughts that people have on the receiving room, what the issue was. Was it the offense? Was it the defense? I think we kind of figured out that somewhere offensively, either the play calling or maybe it is the quarterback might be the issue, right? I would argue that the running game wasn't there. What are you guys' final thoughts on Georgia and what the problems are at Georgia?
I think Georgia has an issue playing with their food, whether it's because the quarterback's too inexperienced to finish the games or the offensive coordinator is doing too much late in games. I think Georgia will be better this year. I do think they finally break out of this Sugar Bowl issue they've been having and make it to the second, third rounds of the college championships this year.
Sounds like Steve is a believer. Mistake. Would you back him up?
A believer? Oh wait, a believer. Oh, okay.
Believes.
Might have to change him to Steve Believer. Oh, anyway. Man, I'm kind of really torn about this team because of what Smart has thrown together to kind of show us what he can bring out of a football team, right? So they're young. You got a year or two of Gunnar Stockton. It's again, honestly, yeah. As much as we talked about there being some tough games in there, one of the easier schedules in the SEC. If you don't take advantage of that when you have, a talented Texas roster, an Ole Miss roster, some of those quote unquote powerhouses in the SEC, you're really going to put yourself behind the eight ball. I think that they have an opportunity. I think they have an opportunity to surprise some people. I think Georgia can absolutely surprise people and be in the SEC championship when all said and done, but there is quite a bit that they're going to have to figure out and grow really fast through those first, 4 or 5 games before they start to take on, Alabama and the likes of, Auburn, things of that such, right? So they're really going to hit the ground running. They can't have any hiccups if they're going to compete.
Look, I think there's no doubt that they do have talent that can compete. I just don't know if they have the top end talent to take over the SEC like they've had the back-to-back seasons with. I don't know if they do. They still don't have the receivers figured out. I think there's much more talented receivers in the SEC when you compare program to program. And then on top of it, you look at their offensive line. They have NFL talent that they got to replace. I know they have talent, but it can be hard to do. And the other thing is we need to change based on what I've read and the studying I've done on what Georgia has done and what Mike Bobo has been doing. I think that they need to kind of change their philosophy on their play calling. They need to become more vertical. They need to take advantage of some of the talent that they do have and become more explosive. Or maybe they can't become explosive because of the lack of talent in the receiver corps. Maybe that's the problem. You know what I mean? But they need to find some more like identity in that offense, not so much on the defensive side. But I think it'll be good enough. I just don't know if it'll be great enough for the long haul of the season. That's my thoughts. And I really do think I do think that Georgia Tech is going to beat Georgia, so shots fired. Yep. But anyway, everybody hit the like button, subscribe if you're brand new. Come over to at 4th and 10, right? Come to at 4th and 10U, come to our channel, subscribe, turn on the notification bell, get on that train with everyone else, and make sure that you're there to be able to watch some of our other content. We have over 100, we're going on 140 videos, right? Every Thursday we put out exclusive content that you can only find at 4th and 10U. If you want to watch us live, you can watch us on X or here, or even on other channels as well. But you definitely want to watch us here because then you can interact with the chat. I usually put up polls and stuff. So definitely check that out. We're going to have some giveaways once we get over 100 subscribers as well. We thank you all. We'll see you in the next one. You all have a wonderful night.